So here are some benign or even constructive things you can do with robots that exhibit some of these kinds of behaviors. These experimental machine architectures can act as extended hypotheses of how humans think and how they act. And those can be used in scientific, psychological experiments. Also, they can be used in direct experiments with humans in a way that can be controlled better than if you have only human subjects. Again, scientific purposes. And then finally, for decades now, both robots and web bots, those are those programs that wander around the web or exist only in your program on your own machine, they've been used for entertainment. And there's a willing suspension of disbelief because you know this is just a program, but you can do things with and to those machines that you might not want to do with or to humans, like blowing them up real good. There are more sinister reasons that one might want to mimic humans. And principally, you want to fool people into thinking they're interacting with a human when in fact they are interacting with a machine. And now we have your cyber, is it a cyborg, is it a robot, is it a human? Well, if only humans could vote and you couldn't tell the difference, there's a good reason to manufacture lots of voters. Near where I live, in Chicago, this is done without robots at all. But it could be done mechanically as well. Also, perhaps if you have a robot, and robots are easier to control than humans, and probably over the long run they are already less expensive than most humans, and certainly in the future they are going to be less per unit cost as more and more get built. So if you replace humans on a job and you're an employer, that could be quite convenient. And finally, some people believe that having machines that look like humans will help the machines to control humans, because humans will fall into line more readily with an entity that looks like them than an entity that doesn't. Part 3, my grim predictions. Nothing grimmer than Arnold Schwarzenegger. 1984 movie. Interesting, it's been that long. This whole idea that robots are going to turn on humans and take over the earth is in fact, I think, a pretty interesting idea, and it's certainly relevant to some of the things we've been talking about this morning, but it's not the point I'm going to rest on. But I hope you won't be back, Arnold. But I think killer robots are more relevant and certainly to the point, because you don't have to go to fiction to find robots that are killing people. This is a cruise missile, and a cruise missile fits every definition I know of in the technical literature for a robot. It's an autonomous robot. Once you launch it, it's using internal controls and internal maps and artificial intelligence, pattern recognition to target and kill. And so that is a killer robot, and that's been around for quite a while. This killer robot is deployed now by the US military. It is, again, this is more of a puppet, but it is a puppet that is gaining autonomy. I was just at a conference in Canada where a manufacturer said, we can make these autonomous today. All we're doing is waiting for all you ethicists to get off our backs. We've got the technical capabilities. We're just worried about our legal position at the moment. And the same thing is happening with the Predator drones. Is that they were originally always a human pulling the trigger. Now the time between the trigger pulling and the actual deployment is getting longer, and the machines are getting more and more decision capability. So how did we get here? Way back in 1942, Isaac Asimov wrote about 3 laws, and you'll see the first law says a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Well, we went right by that law quite a while ago in US defense contractors. So the people that thought these kinds of rules were going to protect us from some of the bad consequences of robots, it hasn't worked out that way, at least not yet. I think that in the future we're going to have more and more of these machines, and they're going to be more and more intelligent, by whatever definition you'd like to use for machine intelligence. Now these will be sophisticated machines for cleaning, building, exploring, organizing, shopping. All those kinds of services are going to become commonplace. I also believe that machines that can pass as people with varying degrees of success at doing that job are going to become commonplace, but in a while. Probably in my lifetime, I believe that soon it'll be possible in situations where you don't look very much at a person. Say somebody's dealing you train tickets through, and there's a dirty glass between you. I think the machines are now close to where they could pass that kind of Turing test. I think they aren't very good at walking yet, but if someone's sitting, a lot of Ishiguro's robots sit because the walking is difficult to get right. Anyway, I absolutely believe this is on the way, that we have to think about this because it is going to happen. And these machines will start to rival people in skills that we have associated with people. This has already happened with playing chess. I happened to be present at the last time a human beat the IBM chess player Big Blue. It was a big deal because the human won, and the next year Big Blue just stomped Kasparov. And now the computers play each other. They don't bother with us humans in chess. So that one's gone, okay? But how about taking care of the elderly? In Japan, they're doing a great deal of work in exactly that area. What if machines do better at that than we do? How about teaching? How about giving talks at conferences? How are we going to deal with those eventualities? Again, let's go back to Deborah Johnson, the computer ethicist. And she asked her inconvenient, but I think wonderful question, why? Why are we building these machines? Why are we making the kinds of investments, and it is expensive to build machines that mimic humans and the things humans like to do themselves? Who is going to be paying those bills and therefore reaping the benefits of these new developments? Well, certainly these war machines are being developed and bought largely by governments. But the more sophisticated machines that are used in industry and are going to be used domestically, well, those are likely to be developed by corporations, and probably larger corporations, although there are many startups in this business right now. But some of those startup business, I predict, will become large corporations, much in the same way that Google became a large corporation with the success of the internet. For those of you who are skeptical that large corporations are going to dominate the world of robots, I give to you the case of the internet as a case in point, as an example of something that started initially being an academic and internationally academic exercise, was then taken over by the US military in this case, and the internet as we know it, and largely the World Wide Web, was built on a system that was commissioned specifically by the US military. And now the internet has major commercial stakeholders who dominate at least many aspects of the internet. And if you've been following the net neutrality debate, you can see that there are billionaire corporations on both sides of that debate, and us consumers are somewhat on the sidelines. So certainly it happened in the high-tech world of the internet. I suggest that it is likely to happen in the high-tech world of sophisticated machines. So what are the likely outcomes for these? What are the consequences for these things? I think that many jobs formerly reserved for humans will no longer require human beings. People are going to lose their jobs. Now, there are economists in the room, and certainly some of them are thinking to themselves, just because some jobs are gone, there will be new jobs. For example, developing and servicing the robot. And I believe that is true to a certain extent. I do think there's a difference, however. I also think one of the differences is that now more than ever there's concentrated power, and this is economic and political power in corporations. And I think that robots are going to help the rich to become richer and the poor to become poorer. Intermingled with these consequences are increasing questions about both the legal and ethical status of these sophisticated machines. Another rebut I have to the argument that there will be new jobs. This always happens with technology. Old jobs pass away. There is some dislocation, but new jobs come along. And surely that pattern has been played out with many technologies. For example, here is a Roomba, the favorite robot in my house because it means we don't have to vacuum. And surely there are some janitorial jobs that are going to go away because of automation. But those low-level skill jobs can go away, and perhaps other jobs will take their place, perhaps more creative jobs, more interesting jobs, the engineers that keep the Roomba working, for example. However, I believe that there is a significant difference between this kind of robot and this kind of robot. That is a qualitative difference. And I contend that the step from using or not using a Roomba in our economy is quite small compared to the kinds of steps that can happen very quickly when robots can replace humans in jobs, classifications, professions that we used to think were reserved for humans. I think that kind of dislocation could be massive and powerful and debilitating. And very sustainable for the people who own the robots, not so sustainable for the rest of us. So those are my dire predictions. What a downer way to end the talk. So instead, I'll give a few challenges. There are social scientists in the room. This is an association of social scientists. So I have a challenge for you. Please tell the rest of us about what you think the impact of these sophisticated machines are today. And then try to leverage those ideas into helping us predict how these machines are likely to be used in the future. And finally, if you agree with me that there may be some bad consequences, how can we change the trends? How can we affect a wiser use of these machines in the future so that it's sustainable for humans and not just sustainable for the machines and corporations? And since I'm challenging you, I also have to challenge computer scientists and computer ethicists. One of my concerns with these machines is that software testing takes on an added urgency when these robots, which are powerful and complex, live amongst us. You may have heard of the blue screen of death when your PC goes bad. That blue screen of death phrase takes on an entirely new meaning when a 300-pound robot butler starts zooming at you full tilt because of a software error. So that's a computer science challenge. And then for computer ethicists, this ethical status of sophisticated machines, I think, is an issue we have to deal with immediately because the age of these machines is not so far in front of us as it is with us already today. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you for your invaluable contributions to our discussion and your attentiveness. I think we have a few minutes for discussion, do we not? And those of you who would like to write a good interdisciplinary paper about issues in technology and society, I'm going to put in a plug for IEEE Technology and Society, a quarterly magazine that publishes exactly those kinds of articles. Arigato gozaimasu.